In May 2000, a chilling discovery was made at a Middle Eastern airport that would leave the world in shock. During a routine security check, a customs officer encountered what appeared to be a loving mother cradling her sleeping baby girl. But no matter how much the officer tried to engage, the infant remained eerily still. It was then that the horrifying truth was revealed. The woman was not the baby's mother but a trafficker, and the child in her arms was not asleep but deceased, her tiny body filled with narcotics. This bone-chilling incident pulls back the curtain on the dark world of human trafficking, a sinister trade that ranks as the third largest black market on the planet, following closely behind drug smuggling and arms dealing. Despite the abolition of slavery over a century ago, the grim reality is that millions of modern-day slaves still exist across the globe. In 2016, their numbers were estimated at over 40 million. By 2021, this figure had alarmingly risen to 50 million. These invisible victims generate an estimated $150 billion annually for their exploiters, yet only a fraction of those missing are ever identified. But what tactics do traffickers employ to ensnare their victims? What unimaginable horrors do these victims face once they fall into the hands of the black market? And why, despite international efforts to combat human trafficking, does the number of people trapped in modern-day slavery continue to climb? This is a call to awareness, a plea for action, and a story that needs to be told. Watch now and discover the dark truth behind the headlines. The sordid trade of human trafficking for commercial sexual purposes has long been a significant global issue. On the black market, approximately 50% of the unfortunate individuals are sold worldwide for the purpose of sexual exploitation. When it comes to gender breakdown, 77% of the victims are women, while 17% are men. Alarmingly, the victims of human trafficking are increasingly younger. 1 out of every 3 victims is a child, and the proportion of children involved has risen from 13% in 2004 to 34% in 2018. A significant number of these children fall victim to sexual exploitation. Even more shocking is the revelation that some people have shattered our understanding of human traffickers as they sell their own children. Consider the story of Akri, a 7-year-old Filipino boy whose dream is to fly to Saturn on a rainbow-colored rocket. Ironically, this dream is a recent development. Before this, Akri had no idea that dreams even existed. He assumed that all children had to endure the same painful experiences he did, standing naked in front of a camera at night, obeying the instructions of adult pedophiles from around the world. Under the cover of darkness, no one paid attention to the terrified eyes and trembling bodies of the children. Even their parents were the abusers, following the commands of the pedophiles and sexually abusing their own children. This tragedy is becoming a common phenomenon in the Philippines. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, and Save the Children have estimated that approximately 2 million Filipino children are at risk of sexual exploitation every day, accounting for 1/5 of the total child population in the country. Tragically, many of these children's parents were themselves victims of abuse during their childhood. Apart from the abhorrent sexual exploitation, forced labor is also a significant purpose of human trafficking. A staggering 38% of trafficked individuals are subjected to labor exploitation. In 2015, after years of efforts from various sectors of society, Mint, a 40-year-old man, finally escaped the identity of a fishing slave and returned to his hometown in Myanmar, marking the 22nd year of his enslavement. On fishing boats in Southeast Asia, there are countless individuals like Mint who are sold to boat owners by human traffickers for the price of $1,000 each, acquiring a new identity as fishing slaves. These fishing slaves live in rusty cages and are forced to work for over 20 hours a day for the boat owners, enduring hunger and violent beatings. The United States, one of the world's largest sources, transit points, and destinations for forced labor, sees at least over 100,000 individuals sold into labor exploitation every year. There are even more horrifying revelations. In 2021, U.S. media reported that approximately 45,000 unaccompanied migrant children had vanished within the country. Forced labor and commercial sexual exploitation account for nearly 90% of the exploitation methods used in the human trafficking black market. Beyond these, Many individuals are also forced to beg, sell their body organs, and some even fall into deep self-doubt, wondering if they are victims or criminals. It seems like no matter which path they take, it leads to a dead end. Do you know how to destroy a person's will? On October 25, 2013, when British police burst into the scene, Ming, a 16-year-old boy, mistakenly believed that his days of suffering were about to end. A few months earlier, Ming had been targeted by human traffickers in the Philippines. After experiencing rape and beatings, he was locked in a refrigeration box. When he saw the sunlight again, he was already in a farm filled with green plants. He didn't know that he was in England, and he didn't know that the green plants were cannabis. The human traffickers told him that these plants were more valuable than his life, and if he didn't take care of them properly, he would die horribly. After being caught and brought back after his first escape attempt, the traffickers warned him that the next time he tried to run away, he would lose his life. A few months later, the police raided the cannabis plantation. Ming couldn't understand English, but during the interrogation, he understood one thing from the sharp and serious scolding of the police. The police were not there to rescue him. Instead, he was arrested and imprisoned for drug production. A teenager who had survived rape, beatings, forced labor, and other atrocities had just been extinguished by the people who were supposed to rescue him. In England, there are countless cannabis farms of various sizes. By 2012, the British police had already discovered 7,165 of them. And almost every farm had people like Ming who were forced to cultivate drugs. The exploitation of trafficked victims by drug dealers does not end there. Have you heard of drug mules? Trafficked victims are often forced by drug cartels to transport drugs. To avoid customs inspections, drug dealers wrap the drugs into pellets weighing about 10 grams using plastic tape, condoms, and other materials, and then force these poor people to swallow them. These people are known as drug mules. A drug mule can generally swallow 125 pellets. They not only face the risk of being discovered by customs at any time, but also the constant danger of being killed by the pellets. Once the pellets rupture inside the body, the high concentration of drugs can kill a person in an instant. So never underestimate the degree of depravity of human traffickers. If there are truly some horrendous things they haven't done, it's probably just because they haven't thought of them yet. What do you imagine human trafficking to be? Kidnapping, taking advantage of people's vulnerabilities, or deceiving? For traffickers, compared to high-risk kidnapping, enticement is a preferred option, often disguised as high-paying job opportunities. In Thailand, approximately 15,000 women and children are trafficked to Japan each year for commercial sexual transactions. However, before arriving in Japan, most of them are unaware that their future work will involve sexual transactions. While still in Thailand, these traffickers pretend to be job agents, wandering among the impoverished population, claiming that there are plenty of job opportunities in Japan, and painting a rosy picture of the benefits of working there. Victims are promised jobs such as waiters or nail salon apprentices before heading to Japan. But once the victims land in Japan, the traffickers quickly sell them into the sex industry. Here, the victims are first told that all personal information used to process their visas is fake, and as illegal immigrants, any work they do in Japan is illegal. Therefore, they should not attempt to seek help or escape. They are also told that from the moment they land in Japan, they already owe the traffickers a huge debt of 3 to 5 million yen, approximately $5,000, for job placement fees. The victims need to engage in sexual services to repay this debt. As a result, countless Thai women and children are forced to live a life of debt repayment, but they soon discover that the debt is growing larger and larger. Apart from using high-paying jobs to lure victims, emotional entrapment is also a common tactic used by traffickers. This means that anyone can become a target of traffickers. They are not only adept at exploiting people's emotional vulnerabilities, but with the development of the internet, their crime scenes have also expanded from offline to online. According to a survey by a research institution in 2015, 55% of human trafficking victims in the United States met their traffickers online and established intimate relationships with them before meeting in person. For example, Some traffickers will add all self-identified students of a certain middle school on social media. Once one or two students accept their requests, the traffickers will ask these students to recommend their classmates to them. Afterward, the traffickers will spend a long time studying these students. Every perceived vulnerability makes them a prime target for attention. The estimated number of people trafficked globally each year ranges from 600,000 to 4 million, meaning that at least 1,000 victims fall into the hands of traffickers every day, and at least one person is sold every minute. What follows may be brutal beatings, forced drug addiction, being chained to furniture or locked in cages, ultimately suffering endless slavery, forced sex transactions, or involvement in criminal activities. Even if they are lucky enough to be discovered and rescued by the police, which accounts for only 0.04% of victims, they will still live in pain for the rest of their lives. Therefore, please always be vigilant and never put yourself in danger. The best redemption is always before the disaster occurs.